Just a handful of these seeds is enough for the ZZ plant to start sprouting new leaves. Here's a clever trick that an old gardener showed me. His plants were always lush and healthy. Although the ZZ plant is not demanding, new leaves don't appear on it too often. To stimulate the plant, it needs to be nourished. Take a handful of sunflower seeds. You can buy them in almost any supermarket. Then, put them in a blender and grind them into a fine powder. Pour potting soil into a bowl. Add the ground sunflower seeds to it and mix well. The ZZ plant likes fertile soil. Sunflower seeds stimulate root growth. They nourish the plant. The leaves become darker and greener after them. The ZZ plant starts sprouting new leaves. Add this mixture when repotting the plant into a larger pot or sprinkle it on top of the soil. Water generously, and you're done. Making this fertilizer costs pennies and takes less than 5 minutes. This fertilizer is for free. Simply water your Zamioculcas with it, and it will produce new leaves. Although this plant is easy to maintain, the emergence of new shoots is not a common occurrence. If you want to see young leaves, ensure proper nutrition for your Zamioculcas. To prepare this fertilizer, you only need one ingredient. Put rice in a jar and pour warm water over it. Wait a few hours until the water becomes cloudy. This suspension is rich in silicon, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, potassium, and vitamins. Water your Zamioculcas with it to nourish its roots and stems. You can also use cooled water from cooked rice. This fertilizer is like a vitamin bomb and also provides hydration. Repeat the procedure once every 2 weeks. You will quickly notice that the plant starts producing new shoots. Rice water alters the soil's acidity and protects against diseases. You can also use it to water other potted plants. Making it practically costs nothing, yet the results are astonishing. Gardeners never throw away used dish sponges. They are like gold for plants. This trick is a clever way to recycle. Start by removing the green and hard part of the sponge. You won't need it. Cut the sponge into smaller pieces using scissors. One sponge should yield a handful of pieces. They are invaluable when transplanting potted plants. Adding a sponge to the soil will help retain moisture. It's a great hack for forgetful people or those who often travel. Before planting the plant in a larger pot, put the cut sponge at the bottom. Then, cover it with soil and place the plant. This base will help the water last longer in the pot. If you accidentally pour too much water while watering, the sponge will absorb it. This will protect the plant's roots from rotting. When the soil starts to dry out, the plant will draw moisture from the sponge. Do you know any other tricks for maintaining moisture in a pot? Just 1 teaspoon is enough to stimulate orchids to bloom. The plant will bend under the weight of the flowers. Forget about watering them with plain tap water. This homemade fertilizer will work much better. Orchids are very finicky plants. Providing them with the right conditions for blooming is very demanding. It turns out that just 1 teaspoon of this powder mixed with water is enough for the plant to grow beautiful and healthy. Water the orchids only when their substrate becomes dry. It is generally accepted that this plant should receive a portion of water at intervals of a few days, but no less frequently than once every 2 weeks. Don't water them with plain tap water alone. Prepare a homemade mixture that will make them start blooming. Put a tablespoon of gelatin in a bowl, then pour warm water over it and stir until the powder dissolves. Gelatin is rich in nitrogen. It is thanks to it that plant roots become stronger and develop faster. In addition, regular nitrogen fertilizer feeding causes the plant to grow more vigorously and produce flowers more often. When the mixture becomes transparent, pour it into half a liter of cold water. Mix everything together. Water the orchids with this prepared mixture. Plants nourished with nitrogen develop new flowers faster. Thanks to fertilization, they will also delight our eyes for a longer time. This watering fertilizer is cheap, natural, and effective. It's worth using it at least once a week. Since I've known this recipe, my orchids have been blooming like crazy, and the flowers last on them for up to 9 months. This fertilizer is for free. Simply water your orchids with it to encourage the growth of new leaves. Orchids are very temperamental plants, and many people struggle with their care. If you want to see new leaves, make sure to provide proper nutrition for your orchid. To prepare this fertilizer, you only need one ingredient. Put rice into a jar and pour warm water over it. Wait a few hours until the water becomes cloudy. This suspension is rich in silicon, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, potassium, and vitamins. Use it to water your orchid and nourish its roots and stems. You can also use cooled water from cooked rice. This fertilizer is like a vitamin bomb and also has a hydrating effect. Repeat the process every 2 or 3 weeks. You will quickly notice that the plant starts to produce new shoots. Rice water alters the soil's acidity and protects against diseases. You can also use it to water other potted plants. Just 1 teaspoon of this spice is enough for orchids to be covered in flowers. This trick is used by orchid growers. Thanks to it, their flowers bloom all year round. Yellow leaves and withered stems may be a sign of serious fungi. It turns out that garlic is the secret ingredient that works great as a fertilizer for orchids. It contains many minerals such as phosphorus, iron, and potassium. It also has antifungal and antibacterial properties, acting as a protective shield against insects and mites. Take 3 cloves of garlic and crush them. Then, pour a liter of water and leave it overnight. The next day, pour the mixture into the flower pot. After 30 minutes, pour off the excess fertilizer. Garlic water can also be poured into a sprayer and used to mist the leaves. The scent of garlic and its antifungal properties protect the plant from diseases and pests. For busy individuals, there's also a simple recipe with granulated garlic. Just add a teaspoon of the spice to a liter of water, then mix the solution and water your plants with it. And that's it. Garlic infusions serve not only as protection, but also support growth and blooming. Garlic acts as a nourishing agent. It contains active substances and nutrients. Simply fertilize the orchids with it at least once every 2 weeks to make them bloom again. It's the only fertilizer I use for my orchids. They literally bend under the weight of the flowers. Recipe for orchid syrup. Thanks to it, you will nourish and shine the leaves of your orchid. Making it takes a few minutes. When caring for orchids, we often focus on the flowers and forget about the leaves. If we take proper care of them, the plant will bloom more frequently and strongly. To make the syrup, put a tablespoon of sugar into a bowl. Add lemon juice. Then, add a teaspoon of honey. Pour in warm water. Stir until the honey and sugar dissolve. The mixture prepared this way is the syrup for orchids. Soak a cotton ball in it and gently wipe the orchid leaves, removing dust and impurities. The syrup will nourish the leaves, support their structure and regeneration. They will absorb more sunlight, which will have a positive effect on the plant's growth. This recipe is a great alternative to chemical shine-enhancing products that can be bought in gardening stores.